Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contracts, services month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Christine McKay on the line, and she's a global negotiation strategist and CEO over at Venn Negotiation. Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, so I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about global negotiation and what that means. But before we do that, I want to go a little bit further in your background. So tell us how you got started in your career and in business.
So I actually had kind of an unusual start. I was an unwed, pregnant teenager living in the back of my 1972 Chrysler Newport. I had 3 kids by the time I was 22, was on and off welfare for almost 10 years, and married a not so nice guy who didn't believe that education was something that women should pursue. And if you saw me, you would know that is not kind of who I am. I don't look that part, but I was playing that part. And I decided I wanted a different life for myself and my daughters, so I renegotiated one. And ultimately, I earned my MBA from Harvard University. I've worked with and negotiated with almost half the Fortune 500 across 53 countries. But I'm from a small town in north central Montana where my parents are small business owners, and I love small business. And I got frustrated working with larger organizations, seeing how they took advantage of smaller companies. And so I really became passionate about helping them level the playing field in their negotiations and helping them become even more successful in asking for what they want, more confident in asking for what they want, and then providing them the tools and techniques to actually get it and negotiate for it.
Man, that is so exciting. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave, contact information or your website or otherwise, just so that, the right individuals, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives listen to this. So the right individuals connect to work with you in Venn Negotiation. So what are the right types of companies and or organizations that are usually a good fit to work with you and your team?
So usually companies are going through some type of negotiation. Either it's an existing relationship that they are renegotiating, or they're looking to engage a new customer or a new supplier. Generally, their contract sizes are more than $100,000 in value in a year for whatever that is. And we work with clients in 2 different core ways. Well, 3. One, we have the educational programs that we do, and we do that kind of on a one-to-many basis. But then we also work directly with businesses, and we either coach them through an existing negotiation where they're negotiating. We work with them to develop a strategy. We practice. We do role playing and Q&A, and we provide we listen in on conversations and provide guidance from that perspective. Or we will actually negotiate on behalf of clients as well, where we have a number of clients who just say, I just don't want to deal with it, and would you please go take care of it for us? So we work with clients on both levels, and we work across multiple industry types and multiple contract types. But we tend to focus more on customer suppliers as well as mergers and acquisitions.
That's awesome, and a great story and great background. So I want to go a little bit further in today's topic, so global negotiation and what that means, and kind of to put this in perspective for the business owners and individuals out there listening to this, because I happen to know it's an important skill set, and I'm not claiming I have it, by the way. I would argue if I was putting myself on a spectrum of like 1 to 10, 10 being good, I'm probably a 2, maybe a 3. I don't know. No, I might be a 1. I don't know, Christina. I'm just like, whatever. Do I want to do it or do I not want to do it? If I don't want to do it, I just walk away and I'm like, whatever. I'm not doing that. But if I want to do it, maybe sometimes I don't get what I'm supposed to get because I'm like, I really want to do this. So I'm not a good negotiator, Christine. There's some other people listening to this right now that maybe think they are, but they're not. Or, give us some framework. Like, how should we be looking at this whole process of negotiation?
Well, the thing that's really interesting about negotiation is that it is inherently singular in that we could have 5 people negotiating with one person for the same product, and they all could be buying that same product or selling that same product, whatever. But you'd end up with 5 different negotiations because each person has their own view of what drives value for them. So I often talk about the most important step of any negotiation is the negotiation we have with ourselves. We can't, if we ask for something and we either don't believe that we are worthy or deserving of it, or we have doubts in our asking for it, or oftentimes we get into our heads before we ask and we then say, oh, maybe that's too much. I shouldn't ask for that. And we just kind of shrink from asking. It's almost certain then that you will not get it. And so having that conversation with ourselves to really clearly define what it is that you want, why you want it, and what's the prioritization of those wants is really important. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he was talking about kind of differences, and he works with a lot of startup companies and venture capital, and he was talking about how certain people ask for a lot more than what they need when they're asking for funding, and then others actually ask for less than what they need. So we're not even talking in that case about what you want. That second group is not even meeting what they need. And so that is all about the conversation and the negotiation they have within their own head in terms of defining what it is that they want. And then once you define what you want, you have to think about how does that ask reflect on my counterpart, right? Because you could have a ludicrous ask or what you think might be a ludicrous ask. So for example, I bought 2 cars for the price of one plus $5,000 once. And I went into the dealership saying to myself, I'm going to buy 2 cars for the price of one, which sounds like a ludicrous ask, right? Absolutely.
Yes, I'm going with that like nonsense.
Right. So in January of this year, so I did that negotiation a number of years ago, but in January of this year, I got into an Uber and my driver happened to be a car salesman, and I was telling him the story, and he said, oh, yeah, I can absolutely see how that can happen. So even today, you could walk in and buy 2 cars for the price of one. But I had done a lot of research. I knew exactly what we wanted, why we wanted it. I knew what my prioritizations were. And I looked at that and I said, how does what I'm asking for impact? I apologize, my dogs are barking in the background. How does that impact the dealer? What's the model? How does the dealer how does the dealer sell this model? Who buys this model? How much does it cost to keep this model on the lot? How many are on the lot? How does the dealer sell? How does the salesperson sell? What's that role versus the manager's role? How does the finance person play a role? And I did all this homework. And I gave my husband a role, and he went in. He played the guy in the negotiation, and I played the girl. And until it came to money, and then it became a different kind of a discussion. And they were not really happy when I said I wanted to buy 2 cars for the price of one. But when I presented my logic after they calmed down, it was like they're like, well, that's just not the case. And I said, well, where am I wrong in my math? And I was wrong in the holding cost. And I said, all right, so then what's the holding cost? And so we came to $5,000. So we drove 2 cars off the lot that night for the price of one plus $5,000.
Whoa, what a good story. I'm like, what am I leaving behind? I'm leaving all kinds of deal and money on the table. I know that. And people listening right now are going to call me, probably sell me something. They're like, oh, this guy.
Well, it also matters how you ask. So, the way you ask matters, and there are different negotiation styles. And so that, the style, like if you're not looking to have a relationship, and we all know these people who are like super combative. And I was speaking with somebody the other day, and literally when he heard the word negotiation, he uttered the word, he clenched his fist, put his hands up in front of his chest, and was almost practically hugging himself as he said, but negotiation is just so combative. And he was clearly uncomfortable with it because he's encountered those individuals for whom negotiation is a battle, and they go into it fully armed and fully armored, and their goal is to annihilate their opponent. And those people exist. And, but they are a small percentage of people. For the majority of us, negotiation is nothing more than the process of being in a relationship. And when we get married, right? My husband and I have been happily married for 27 years. And I can tell you right now that the deal that we entered into the day we got married is not the same deal that we have now because our lives were totally different. And we're two different people. Well, why are business relationships treated differently? We enter into these relationships, and I have this saying, and my attorney friends laugh at me. They're like, this is the craziest thing. No one's ever said this. But contracts and our business relationships, when we get into a relationship, it's because we have hope for the future. We believe that there's mutual benefit in the future that we both can partake in. And if we believe that, and if you believe in a customer for a lifetime, then over the lifetime of that relationship with the customer or your supplier or an investor, then your relationship's going to change because you change, your information changes, your business changes, your market changes. And so we don't think about business relationships in that same way. But that's really all negotiation is that process of being in a relationship over time.
That's awesome. So, Christine, first off, I could talk to you about this all day long. I mean, super interesting topic, and I know a lot of my listeners are going to want to learn more about what you do. So, that being said, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Venn negotiation, I mean, what's the best way for them to reach out and to connect with you and your team?
So they can reach out to us at www.venn, VENN, like the Venn diagram, Venn negotiation. No S on that. So there's 3 N's in the middle of that, VennNegotiation.com, and you can reach out to us through there. That's the easiest way to reach us.
Fantastic. Well, Christine, been great having you on the show today. Appreciate you coming on and teaching us a little bit more about what it takes to be a negotiator and some of your process. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Christine, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, Adam, for having me.